Hey, welcome back to another episode of Coaching Conversations, the very last episode for 2022. Today, we're speaking about our biggest lessons and takeaways that we've learned from coaching over the last year. Hello, welcome back to the final episode of Coaching Conversations for 2022. We've got a big episode lined up for you today, but before we get into it, Nick, how are you today?
And let me tell you, I'm tan today because yesterday
Yes.
at the beach, and
Yes.
it was the day before I was on the harbour with one of my clients' parties.
Yep.
Good old me, forgot the hat and the glasses.
Ooh.
And when I got on board the boat, I was wearing a jacket. And when I came off the boat, I needed some type of aloe vera stuff. Lucky I'm not very sensitive in the skin department.
Yeah.
Being of ethnic origin, usually our skin can hack it a little bit. But
Yeah, that's right.
you know, it feels good to be down the beach, I can tell you that, and
Yeah.
splashing around the water. So it was even
Good. It is starting to warm up. We are only a few weeks away from Christmas, hence why I'm wearing the hat today. It may
The
come
hat, I like it.
mildly itchy. Plus, I've got my Christmas mug with me as well.
Ho,
Ho, ho, ho. So
I'm
we're getting into the
surprised
spirit.
the powers that be didn't ban that as inappropriate or something like that.
It might happen eventually. Ho,
It
ho,
might.
ho. We should embrace the
Fun
hose.
police.
We
Yeah,
should embrace the hose before we get it taken away from us.
exactly, man. Yeah, or else the fun police will get rid of that too.
The ho police.
Yeah, the ho police. You can't have any fun in Christmas because it's,
No more hose
all right, man.
over Christmas. Let's go away from that topic. So today we want to speak about or share really our biggest lessons from 2022. We are only kind of on the wind down or wind up, whichever way you want to see it, towards Christmas. This will be our last episode of the year. So I thought of a good time to actually share what we've learned, some key takeaways, some key lessons. I've got a couple in front of me. No doubt you've got a few as well to share. Let's kick off on your side, Nick. What are a couple of things that you have seen as golden takeaways, impactful takeaways, anything that might be of sound, value to pass on to business owners listening?
Yeah, very good. I mean, look, there's 100 of them if I want to, but I've narrowed it down to kind of 5, which I think is important lessons that I've learned or we've learned, and then be able to, carry them into 2023 and kind of get rolling again. Number 1, prepare for plan B and plan C.
Right.
Very rarely does any of the planning that you actually think is going to be absolutely right on the money for everything and all the rest of the stuff very rarely ever work. I just think it gives you a guide, but you never know when things change. I mean, when you really think about it, this time last year, we were just coming out of a lockdown for a long lockdown.
Very true. Yes.
People are sort of starting to get back into it. Christmas was that. And the year before that, especially in New South Wales, was the biggest bushfires we've ever had. That lasted almost 6 weeks or something. When you think about it. So, and then, we've had COVID for 2 years, all of that stuff. So, the plans that anybody would have made the year before wouldn't have, kind of been difficult. So I think, something that you need to prepare for, don't put all the eggs in one basket where it comes to a plan.
Right.
Have a few different plans that you can refer to just in case something doesn't go according to plan. And I think if you're prepared for plan B or plan C, you can, quickly pivot. I know you like that word,
our
pivot,
favorite
but,
word,
and, should I say quickly maneuver around it and do what you need to do. That's very, very, very important, especially going into 23. I mean, there's an economical uncertainty. I just heard it before. There's been 8 interest rate rises in the last 6 months. 8, with another 2 coming. That's showing you something that's going to happen in 2023. I think we're riding that now because our people are busy through that economy.
Yes.
The COVID sort of, semi-false economy, biggest economy increase without the income increase associated with it. So I think, as post-Christmas, when all the spending stops and all that stuff, we're probably going to see a different economy, on us here in Australia, especially, and around the world. So.
Yeah, right. Heard an interesting statistic on the radio yesterday or the day before about online shopping. So November was the it was November just gone, was recorded as the highest. Australians spent the most money online in online purchases in the month of November ever.
Mhm.
The amount of spending online just in November to date was the most that people had spent on online gifts or online anything ever.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, if you notice, took advantage of the Black Friday type
Of
spend.
course, that's driving that. I
And
think.
they didn't do just Black Friday, it's Black Friday week. you
Yeah,
know, like so people
Friday for 7 days. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's I've got an interesting point too about that too. Bob.
Okay, good. So have a plan B and C.
Mm.
Because if plan A
Very
isn't working, doesn't work, you need to have some sort of contingency.
some sort of contingency because you're going to need it. Very rarely does a plan work. Actually, 88 to 90% of all change management, as an example, fails.
Yeah.
Over 90% of all marketing fails.
Mm.
So you kind of got to be ready. You know? The marketing genius that you thought was going to work perfectly usually doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
And we've experienced that too.
we've experienced it, of course we have.
Amount of testing we've done.
Yeah.
I want to share one of mine
Yeah,
today.
go.
Let's jump in.
Go for it. Yep.
We'll go one for one.
Go for it.
Something I've learned and something I guess learning more of is that slow and steady will always win the race. And if you think about it, anything that is significant, anything of significance or of great success never comes quickly. Let's just think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. I mean, you're the master of that, really.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this, you know, Chris is the guy that's like, nah, get this done, then let's work to the next, and let's not take on too much that we can't do it.
Yeah.
I think they're words of wisdom, Chris. A lot of us as entrepreneurs, I think, feel the need that they have to do 1,400 things in, you know, 3 days, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the guy with that. But I think over the last few years, listening to your advice, I've really and you've seen this.
Very much so.
I haven't taken on any major stuff that I don't think we can accomplish.
Yeah.
I'm very much mindful of things take a lot longer than what we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily get freaked out if it's not done now, because I think I've just matured in my approach to understand that, you know, it's funny. I've got, you know, one of the things that I've looked at as a, you know, point 3 to discuss as well in a similar fashion, but I'm very much with you. I think, you know, entrepreneurs sometimes think that this is a sprint where it's actually a marathon.
When you think about it, nothing, you know, the rhetoric, the dialogue, or the messaging that you might hear, it's all, you know, you get the biggest result the fastest. If you think about that, you don't get anything the biggest, the fastest, or the quickest. You know, there's always a period of time that will extend to achieve whatever it is that you want. And if you slow things down, I'm talking about slowing down your action, slowing down your thinking, slowing down your planning, to your first point, it allows you to observe progress more widely. You know, if you're traveling at 150 Ks an hour, you can't really take in the scenery as you can when you're doing 60. You can take in
and that's with everything too, right? I mean,
absolutely everything.
Even gamblers, gamblers, it's an over a year because they know they're going to lose.
Yep.
I know there's times that they thought they were going to win the house and then they didn't.
Yeah.
And that's even on gambling, right? Like if you're a professional in something, Dan Sullivan says this perfectly, right? Your business is 25 years in the making.
Yep.
Then you got a great business. And I'm not saying that this is the rule of thumb for everyone. Some people go in and out quick, sell for $1 trillion and they're out. But, you know, in order for them to do all of that, they've already had 30 years of experience prior to that to get there.
And that's where I was going to go to with that. It's, you know, sometimes you might see people witnessing what they would consider instant success, but there really is no instancy behind that. It's very slow and steady and methodical. I'm not saying that you don't sprint occasionally. There's no problem with that. I'm not saying go slow forever. It's build a really good level of momentum, then accelerate quickly, you know, get to market, launch to market, speed to market's important. But I think slowing down your approach, slowing down your thinking, becoming really observant, and then just being ridiculously consistent at what you do will always help you to win. You can't get the biggest result the quickest. It just doesn't work that way. Think about weight loss. I want to, shed 50 kilos tomorrow. That does not exist. You cannot do that. I want to win a premiership if I'm in a sporting team, in one season with a fresh team or a fresh set of legs. Like you don't play 1 week and win the premiership. You play for like 26, 30 weeks. That's 30 weeks of grueling, intense work, games, rehab. You lose players to injury. Like that's a slow and steady process in itself.
I mean, some sporting teams are years, but then I remember reading Sir Alex Ferguson. They wanted to sack him 3 years into Manchester United to go, you're hopeless, you will not win anything.
Yeah.
These players are shit. Then he brings in 6 players from the junior squad, Wayne Rooney, Giggs, Scholes,
right.
all of these legends, Ferdinand, legends today.
Yeah.
And then he takes 19 years and hammers everyone. Like for 3 years, they're all going to sack him.
There you go.
You're hopeless in the media.
Yeah.
Get rid of him. He's terrible. And then
and I think you can dig into
right.
the psyche behind this. Where does that even come from? I usually think about that. I think society is driven by immediate, quickest results now. Like I want everything today, tomorrow. Amazon can deliver same day delivery, far out. So it's almost like you're conditioned to get what you want when you want it. But if there's anything of great significance in this world, I'm going to line you up and say it's going to take some time.
I think the one word for it is work towards mastery.
Yes. And it's something that, particularly from a business sense, slow and steady will always win the race. So that's one of the big lessons for me.
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
What's your second one?
Second one is when an economy turns, there's always massive growth that comes from it. Seth Godin's book, The Dip, talks a lot about preparing for the next upturn for it. Let's just think about this for a second. We had COVID, a global economy slowdown, global economy slowdown. This is never, ever, none of us have experienced this. I mean, even in things like Great Depressions and stuff, it didn't hit places around the world, everywhere, for all the time, right? But in this particular case, this pandemic, whatever you believe, whether it's, done on purpose, it isn't, whatever, that's not the point. The point is that it ground everything to a halt. Just think, every sector across, pretty much every human was affected by COVID, unless you're living in the Himalayas or something. I don't know, but, like the, right? So, and what's happened there, people thought, oh, no good. Now, some businesses faded. There's undoubtedly is affected and closed down. And, there was a lot of people that died lonely and all of that type of stuff. And I get that. But you've also got to think that every time there's a slowdown, there's a massive reboot. World War II showed that. I was watching a like a series on Anthony Bourdain, the cook that I love.
Yes.
Obviously he's passed away, but, they were talking about Detroit. And Detroit was the mega city globally, of hub of innovation, cars, the Packard, Buick, and all these, it was incredible. Like you look at the city as a city after World War II, and it was incredible. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Detroit was the economical giant, of the world.
Wow.
China is today, or Japan is, for producing cars. And, now it's ghost town. I think it's something like, 85% of all businesses have gone.
Really?
Millions of people have left and all of that stuff. So it's pretty bad. It's ghost town, but now they're starting to rebuild again. People that are into it, and all of the starting to shifting the economies around. So what's good about that is after every turn, there's always a massive level of growth. The whole goal now is to prepare for that growth and ride out the down wave. You know what I mean? And if you're set with your business and you're being clever, and Jim Rohn says it perfectly. There's 4 seasons in businesses, right? In summer start preparing for winter. Yep. In winter, start preparing for spring, and spring, start preparing to make your money. And in autumn, buckle down the hatches because winter's coming.
Right.
that should be thought of by businesses. You can't just keep on making money and not put
Yeah.
any money away. Like there's economy are going to slow down, but there's opportunity that if you're positioned where everybody else is retreating and you become bullish on it and push forward, like you said, there's sometimes a time to sprint. Well, in a downturn economy, then there's a time to sprint.
Yes.
Because everybody else is retreating and you're setting up for what's coming, and then you'll leapfrog your competitor. And in the book, The Dip obviously talks about that J curve of if you stop advertising on the way down, it's twice as hard to try to advertise on the way up because all the competitors are doing the same. But if you kept on consistency with your advertising, rode out the wave of downward spiral, and then came up, you'll be better, and that's why even with us, we're starting to advertise. We're starting a very bullish advertising campaign into 23. So
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like that one. I think people probably need a broader view on how their business is operating in their larger market as well, because people can become quite insular, operating in their own little bubble. And if things aren't looking good, they kind of go into recluse mode and start to panic and that sort of thing. But like you said, when there's a downturn, there's always an opportunity to rebuild or
Well, it's because they're thinking too short term, isn't it? What's happened to me now? Where's the money now? But you've been in business for 10 years. What have you been doing with the money then?
That's right.
Like you've got to start. I always think you need a nest egg. And, we talk about a lot about this where it comes to, load funding and cash flow funding, and all of that stuff. And I get it. I'm not saying that all business is easy and you got all this extra money and all that stuff. But when you really think about it, if you started the habit of putting some money aside, and it's truly a habit. It's not how much you put, it's just the habit of doing it. You'll probably be better off than where you are today. But unfortunately, people aren't good with the habit. They mismanage money. And now, instead of going up on the wave of the massive growth, they're getting hammered as the wave's going on top of them and pounding them down. But my goal is, what I've learned from 2022, when the economy goes down, there's massive growth. I mean, look at it last 2 years, since we've had COVID this time last year, the economy's gone like this. And you can see it. Restaurants are full. Beach yesterday, there's jet skis everywhere. Like you said, Good Friday, November was the biggest retail month ever. And I get it. Sometimes it's a bit of a false economic truth where, people in downturns try to self-medicate themselves by, let's buy all of this crap that we don't need because it makes us feel good because we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. Where smart people go, let's just have a look at what's over the hill first. And then let's put some money away. Then if it's cool, we'll buy anyway.
That's right.
Like where it's the priorities. And it's funny. Like I was talking with Rose, and I'm like, for Christmas this year, I want a pair of glasses. And I'm tired of spending $200 on glasses, but it's one of those things. And then I go, geez, I'd like a watch, and a nice watch is $3,000 to $5,000 or something. I've earned it.
Sure.
I started thinking, and I'm like, you know what, like. I can wait for that. I'd rather beaver some money away, make sure we're cool, finish the projects that I'm working on, the caravan, all that stuff. More of a priority, is that going to give me happiness? Well, I've got to watch, I've got 4 watches.
Got one that already works.
Like it's that, and that's, I don't know whether it's procrastination, but I think it's actually clever thinking, to be honest. And you hit it perfectly. This economy of I want it and I need it now and I have to have it now. Is just breeding, massive debt levels and and it's funny. Like I was talking to a mate of mine, and my son Philip, we were talking about jet skis, and he goes, "Dad, what do you think?" I said, "Well, if you're going to just buy a new one, and they're like 30, 35 grand. My son's like 16."
Right.
And I said this to him. I said, "Do you want to pay for it?" And he goes, "Yeah," and he works like he does reffing, and now he's going to get a job hopefully in the holidays and stuff. He's going to turn 17. And I told him, I said, "Hey, dude, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it and I'll go halves with you, but you got to pay off half of it." And then my other mate was like, "Don't be stupid. Don't get him into debt." I'm like, "No, dude, actually, I'm teaching him that if he focuses on something and he works, he can put money away, and that's a savings plan opportunity that sooner or later he's going to pay that off, then he owns it."
Yeah, that's right.
It's not, I didn't go, "Yeah, I'll just buy it for you." We've already got a jet ski. It's here. But
Yep.
you know, a new one or whatever. And I said, dude, not until you're driving, because I'm not going to be one driving you around. Then you drive, you got a boat license, you got a jet ski license, you can do it. So once again, you know, with that, it's how do you train people into doing it? And I'm not worried about the debt. The debt's only a worry when you can't pay it off.
Yeah, that's right.
Or if you need, or if you buy shit that you don't necessarily need that devalues. Now, in saying that, the value of this is the lesson is a $30,000 you pay it off lesson, and that's all I'm giving you is half of it. You figure it out. And I told him that clear. Said before we enter into it, dude, you're into a contract with me to go that there's no, oh, I'm not going to work today because you know I'm going out with my mates. It's like,
Yeah,
what you got to do. You come up with your side, I come up with my side. You wanted it, you figure it out.
good.
You know, like that should be training for people to start. And I think it feels good to be able to go, you know what, we paid off 35 and, you know, I've got an asset. So I don't mind, like I said, some people aren't cool with that because they're, you know, a bit freaky outy, but I think that
Sure.
I think if you do it cleverly, you get to
Yeah.
go.
I think that ties really well into my second point that I want to share. And my second point is this, and I learned this from Dr. Joe Dispenza, reading in one of his books. It says, if you want to become a different person, you need to think like a different person. If you want to become a different person, you need to start thinking like a different person.
That's awesome.
And that just grabs everything. So if let's put you going back to, if you're watching this or listening to this, you know, if you've experienced pain, frustration, or challenge or friction this year, no doubt that is a byproduct to some degree of your thoughts and possibly your macro environment. Considering we're leading into a new year, if you want to change what you've experienced, how about we start thinking in a different way? Because if you think the same way, you're going to get the same thing, right? So there's a couple of things I've jotted down here. You need to adjust your thoughts firstly. And maybe the way that you think about things is not the best way or right way, not that there's a right way, but maybe the best approach in way of your own thoughts. Like thoughts are only thoughts at the end of the day. So it's a matter of maybe we need to adjust the way that we're thinking towards, you know, problems or issues that we're experiencing in our businesses. Maybe through fatigue where, you know, we get an issue, someone calls us on the phone and our window frames are going to be delayed on a property and we throw our hands up and we get angry about it. Maybe if we change the way that we think about this situation and go, okay, well, that gives me 3 weeks. What am I going to do instead? And shift the way that you approach or react to that situation, maybe that's going to provide you with a different outcome, not only from a work perspective, but also from a personal perspective too. I think you mentioned it before as well. Habits are really important. If you have habits that aren't successful for you now, then maybe consider creating some new habits for 2023. And then
I think
through
that's
habit,
really important.
you will become a different person. You know, it's like, hey,
habits are habits, right? You can have bad habits.
Yeah.
That lead you to bad results or good habits. And I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza is the perfect example. I remember presenting on stage with him and, you know, we've spoken a lot and, you know, just that he comes with from an approach of saying that, you know, thoughts can become your reality and to change your reality, you can start changing that through meditation. And he, you know, proves through science, you know, and through, you know, the esoteric that, you know, there's end results. They're just doing a study currently. I think they've been doing it for the last 2 months, where they're literally showing that through meditation, long-term meditation, all of these cures, all of these changes, all of these changes that they're seeing in people, not just physically, but even, you know, things from a career base, money base, and all that. It's insane. Wow. He's tapped into like a new programming system basically for your mind to do that. Yeah. So and you know, he's got millions of followers around the world.
Yeah. And I think, you know, even if you take a leaf from Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, where you're transitioning from a technician to become a manager, you need to start thinking like a manager. You can't continue to keep thinking like a technician. I wrote something that was really powerful and kind of was like a light bulb for myself. It's the last point to this is you've got to be willing to break the current version of you. Like you need to be okay with, okay, if I want a different result, I'm going to have to think differently, but that means I'm going to become different, but I'm okay with that. Let's start thinking a different way or create a different habit. You need to be willing to break the current version of yourself.
Yeah,
And
breaking the habits of being.
yeah, and that involves being a little bit uncomfortable in some circumstances. But if you want different results, if you want to have a different outcome for 2023, you need to start thinking like a different person so that you can achieve that outcome.
That's interesting, because the human body's built for longevity at some level. You know, like you're ticking for 80 years, give or take. 80 years.
Yeah.
Like, I read a funny stat yesterday. I said, sorry for being a downer, but the life expectancy is 70 to 80. So 50 is not the new 30s. 50 already closer to the 80. Right? I know
You're over halfway.
In that bracket. But that's only if you think that you're going to last that long.
Yes.
But if you didn't accept that, I mean, you know, like so many things that we've created in our life through, you know, they just bought a craft back for 26 days that went to the moon today, landed on Earth, right? Which is pretty amazing. So, but so many things that we've done have actually been a shift in the status quo thinking. How could we ever get anybody off the ground, off the surface of this planet?
Yes.
In the 1900s, we couldn't. Then the rock did in 1910 or whatever. And then it, like, when you look at that to where we are today in space travel, like Cassini's traveled, you know, almost to the edge of this universe, you know.
Yes.
And in the next 1,000 years, I mean, if you think about it, like, where are we going to be? Surely it's going to be edge of space. And I mean, I'd be long dust, and we'll all be long dust, but if we just podcast and survive.
You'll be thinking at least about this.
But the Upcoach podcast is still going to be there. That's funny.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you know, like, have you noticed anything that's has evolved us? Our life expectancy used to be 40. Penicillin was never invented. Like, it's only because people said, no, there's got to be a better way. No, there's no way. So, you know, this resonates highly with me too, Chris. And I think it's a massive lesson. You know, don't settle for it. Don't think that, you know, you can't change. You can, but you got to put the work in, and you got to break the habit of being you. Yeah. Because humans just, you know, it's funny. We want stuff tomorrow, but we don't want to work the previous years to get to the stuff tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, like it's crazy. I just downloaded a book called Samurai. You know, thoughts of samurai, which is kind of cool, right? And I wanted to read it, basically saying, you know, when I looked at it, sort of came up on a feed, and I'm like, oh, you know what, that looks like it's kind of cool. And, you know, I thought, oh, you know, like, training the samurai mind, you know, and basically it's all notes from samurai being translated, you know, by a guy by the name of Thomas Cleary, you know, which is kind of cool. And it's the same thing. I mean, the samurai was not meant to fight. I mean, they fight obviously, but they were fearless, but they were also ultra calm. They're also attention to detail with everything. You know, humans are we built for that longevity. You know, for us. But so going against the grain of I want it now, I'm an Instagram success, I don't really produce anything, but I want all this money.
Yes.
It's kind of weird where it comes to that, you know. Absolutely. You know, it's funny, like an influencer was called what? A spruiker before, standing outside of Coles and, you know, got apples, and now, you know, they see them, oh, look at these cosmetics, I use these, they're amazing. What's the difference? One you got a camera on you, and you know, hardly wearing anything, and the other one is you sitting in front of a shopping center, you're still the same person, you know. You know what I mean? Like, there's we could carry on with that, but it's but yeah, I'm with you. I think it's
good. What have you got as another point there, or another lesson?
I wrote, look long and short term in your planning, like you said, which we sort of, so we can, you know, make this a quick one, but you know, look long term with your stuff, and then short term, what do you need to adapt to quickly, and long term, what are you setting up, not for the next 12 months, but the next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, you know, one of our podcast guests, you know, Drew Morgan from, you know, Morgan Business Sales, he said you should start thinking to sell your business from the day that you start your business.
Right.
You know, and that was kind of cool, mate. He said 99% of the people that I speak to don't think that. And the ones that get the most for their business are the guys that already thought about it, setting it up for sale. He goes, then you can move on, try something different. He goes, but most people don't either think about what they want, or don't think about that they can do something differently. Breaking the habit of being you, right? So,
yeah, that's good. Did you have another one there as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And so number 4 is don't let distraction affect you. You know, there's always going to be something. You know, not long ago it was September 11. Not long ago it was the bushfires. Not long ago it was floods. Not long ago it was COVID. Not long ago it was something else. Not long, you know, like Trump thing, you know, Black Lives Matter, all of this shit, basically. And to be brutally honest, if you switched off the TV and you didn't listen to the radio and you didn't do whatever and you didn't listen to anybody talking about that crap, would it really affect your life? And the answer is probably not that much. If you never knew about COVID and you got the COVID flu and you go, shit, I took it as a flu, you know, I did all the flu stuff that you usually do, stayed at home, vote smart, eat well, you know, try to boost yourself vitamin C, 99.9% recovery rate. Even everybody dies on the normal flu. So, you know, instead the media makes it like this and it's going to kill us all. It didn't do shit. It didn't even affect the thing. So, but guess what? So many people got affected by it. That then now I see them now, like COVID's over here and everyone's wearing masks again. I'm like, you know, like, you know, it's don't let those distractions affect you. And sometimes your distraction is going to be money. Sometimes your distraction is going to be an employee leaving. Somebody is a distraction, a client not being cool. Sometimes it's a personal life distraction. You might, I don't know, maybe a daughter that's on drugs or whatever, like that. It's called life. But you can't let the distractions affect you. Now, I'm not saying don't react to the distractions. That's totally different. You know, I mean, our best friend died this year, which was one of our team members. I mean, you know, and I'm not counting that as a distraction, but what I am saying is, you know, we've got to rebuild. We've got to keep moving. We've got to get back on the horse sooner or later. I mean, because you're still here. You know, so but some people just can't ever get over it, and or they get distracted too quickly and they panic. Oh, what's happening? Why did those guys sell? The worst thing you could have done in September 11 is sold all your property. The idiots that did sell it, right? They're the ones that suffered the most. The people that kept it, no problem. Could you imagine bought stuff in the year 2000 versus what it's worth in 2022?
Yeah, that's
you
right.
You know, like you don't let the distractions up.
I think the distraction one's really good. A lot of business owners struggle with that because there's lots of what would they see as kind of semi priorities that they're chasing, you know, chase this, chase that. This is important. I think I'll go and chase that. And it just really slows down their momentum. And I think distraction just slows everything down in a bad way. But, you know, it's a matter of being able to, you mentioned a word before, adapt. And I think adapting to those distractions or the chaos that might be happening. I think that's important.
Well, that's why, I mean, I like the lighthouse theory. You know, a lighthouse gets hammered, but it's also sunny some days, or windy some days, or dangerous in the water some days, or whatever. Like, but a lighthouse stands firm. All right, I'm here. They're built different. Those things can and have 200 knot winds, and it's like, you know, like the light's always on. You know, hey, you're out at sea, you can see the lighthouse, and I love the lighthouse effect. I mean, I talk a lot about it in Apology, and you know, like. So when things do get distracted, people are like, oh, what do you think? Oh, should we think? I'm like, no, man, just stick to your plan. Let's get doing it. And if we need to change it, plan B, plan C. But if you're too distracted too simply, too quickly, and we saw this in an economy, and I know I'm coming back to the COVID, but you just saw people very, very easily manipulated in a way where that was a quick distraction, everything, panic. Where the truth of the matter is, you know, if we calm down a little bit, took the data in accordingly, you know, chopped everyone's head off in the media, would have been a good start. You know, like maybe we wouldn't needed to have reacted so heavily to it, you know, and because think about it, after this happened and we opened up all the economy, there was 1,000 times more cases, probably 1 million times more cases. Like it went from, you know, we were shutting down places for like 50 people. And now there was like, you know, 85,000 people that are registered with it. I'm like, how did all of a sudden we, you know, like, and once again, it's however it was handled. I'm not trying to, you know, put that point across, but what I am trying to say is with your business, if you are too easily distracted, you never find grounding on yourself. And you've taught me this. Do slow and steady. Let's get this done. Get this made up and spinning. Get this done. And, you know, now even with me and you planning, I'm like, Chris, what do you reckon? Probably February? You're like, yes, probably right. But before I used to go, hey, dude, is it ready yet? You know?
Can we get it done next week?
Can we get, we're launching 18 thinking, but now I'm planning.
Yeah.
I'm already starting the plan from 2 weeks ago for next year's advertising.
Yeah.
Takes time. So yeah, distractions.
Awesome. There's a whole lot of golden nuggets in there. And
You got one more?
no, I'm
Oh,
done.
man,
But
I've
you
got,
can,
I've got
okay,
one
you
more.
can
I've
wrap
got one
up
more.
on this one. Let's wrap on
Okay,
this
yeah,
one.
you're gonna love this one. Remember, kids, it's an evolution, not a revolution. That's
Very
what
good.
it's an evolution, not a revolution. It takes a bit of time, like be in it, push, be revolutionary when you need to, but just slow and steady. What's the rush? We're there.
Yes. Yep.
And that way it makes you savor things more. I liked it when it used to be, you put your stuff on lay-by,
Right.
credit card. You took your time to pay it off, but geez, it was good when you handed over the last payment and then you got it. Felt better.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, a lot of the shit we don't need right now. You
Yep.
can live
Agreed.
with.
And
That iPhone, you can live with the older version.
yeah, I think there's that whole I want it when I want it type thing, and it's probably sped up expectations in some way. But the evolution thing's important. If you don't evolve your business, you'll eventually be superseded and die out. Eventually, at some stage. Look at Kodak.
Look at Kodak, yeah, exactly.
Look
at Nokia, yeah, exactly.
Nokia. So I think it's one of these things where evolution is essential if you want to continue to grow and thrive. But you're right, it's not a revolution, it's evolution. Slow and steadily evolve and grow stronger and better and learn and adapt and change and shift and move forward. One of the first things that I usually speak to with clients when they jump on a session, how was the last week? Oh, it's been really busy. And my very next question is always, has there been any progress? Because if you're being busy without any progress and you're really just wasting your time, let's focus on the progress. And I think that's focusing on the evolution. Let's move forward slowly over time.
Yeah.
Very good. Any final words for these merry listeners?
Look,
you might be wrapping up things for your business. What have you got? Final words.
Yeah, look, Christmas is a time for reflection, right? There's no doubt. I think that's very important. So, when you look at that, you got to go, okay, cool. Let's work towards just, being okay with yourself and, sit and think about reflections and consider, the things that are going to, impact yourself and your family. I think that's very important. This whole thing of not worrying, not taking that time out to be, doing the right thing, I think, could be, like detrimental to you. Just take a bit of that time and be okay with, and just think that, you've got the opportunity to just sit and reflect a little bit.
Yep.
Work's always going to be there. Like, let's not be silly about it. So if work's going to be there, then okay, cool. Like,
very much so. Rest and rejuvenate. It's important. It's probably critical to business success.
Like a lot of people, we've spoken about this, 52 weeks in the year. Most people are lucky to take 1 week off. You need balance. Or life balance, like Mr. Miyagi said, right?
Well, life balance. Even if you don't believe in balance, it's unfortunately a necessity.
Yeah. And sometimes, here's another one. You just got to let go. Let the universe guide you, do what it does. In this infinite level of creativity and the, the force of nature, surely there's got to be a way that, something's controlling the human as well. So that's how it is. If we all think that we're all that, I mean, how does an acorn know it becomes an oak? How does a butterfly know it becomes a butterfly?
I think that should lead into that'll be our intergalactic coaching series, I think, leading into next year, Interstellar.
It knows. It's clever.
Yeah.
Like how does a animal have its characteristics? How can a tiger have a tiger? And within 2 weeks, this thing can already kind of, it's aware and it can walk and it can, and in a year, it's like in 2 years, it's on its own. It can hunt, it can do. No one's taught it; just figures it out. And it sees the parents doing it, and you know what I mean. If you're stressed out too much over Christmas, guess who's going to get all that stress? First of all, you, and then everyone around you. I mean, I was just listening to Dr. Gabor talking about ADHD, that it's actually a stress off the parents that the children's get, which creates an adaptive mechanism. That's why when the parents are freaking out, the kids go quiet. They don't want to do anything. They can't focus on anything. They go internal. They become an introvert. Fast forward that 15 years, and it's called ADHD, and they reckon it's a medical condition. It's not. He believes that it's a learnt response, coping mechanism from stresses of parents. And now Christmas could be either fun, enjoyable, happy, or it could be, oh man, we need that.
Very true.
What are you freaking out about? It's like, fuck. It's like,
Very
the
true.
food's not right. It's like, man, just
Very
have
true.
fun. Just let go and enjoy it.
Good. Let go, have fun. That was a really good episode. I hope you got a lot out of that. And I hope you're resting and rejuvenating and relaxing over the Christmas break. And we'll see you all again in 2023 with Coaching Conversations once again. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you, Chris. You've been the best on this. So next year, it's more about Coaching Conversations with Chris.
Yeah. I want to get some more guests on too as well.
Exactly.
Get bored of our voices. Anyway, we're going to wrap up. Thanks so much for listening, for watching, and we'll see you all again next year. Bye now.
Bye now.